You know, anytime I'm looking out there in the world, man, it's always like two specific phrases that hold back a young mind. Always peer pressure, always fear. Two specific phrases that I always hearken to when I tend to try to lead a young mind or try to speak to somebody younger than me or try to lead by example. I always hear, well, I'm afraid to do this because I'm afraid that that'll happen, or he pressured me into doing something that I shouldn't have been doing, yet I'm still doing it. Now I'm stuck. See, that's the two things that stick to a young mind all the way up to adulthood, all the way up to trying to lead by example themselves. That'll stick with them forever. Being stuck in a place because of peer pressure, or being stuck in a place because of fear. Those two words, they always tie in together and they'll always hold you back. But tonight, we gonna focus on peer pressure. And anytime I give y'all a lesson, or anytime I give anybody a lesson, I always like to give them quotes or give them the definition to allow them to understand it a little more. And always, you know, just to break it down, peer pressure, to be influenced by your peers being your friends or family, but it basically means influence from one's peer group. Now, study says it's a direct influence on people by peers, or the effect on an individual who gets encouraged to follow their peers by changing their attitudes, values, or behaviors to conform. That's the word that we're going to keep banging on this entire lesson. To conform to those of the influencing group or individual. This can result in either a positive or negative effect, or both. Like I said, that's the same thing goes to fear as well. You know what I mean? You can take out peer pressure and put fear. That's how much the two coincide together. You know what I mean? But tonight we just gonna focus more on peer pressure, because that's something that a lot of high school students, a lot of college students, a lot of adults tend to struggle with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm also always give y'all the scripture of the night so y'all can go back to or study when it comes to certain things or certain phrases or certain words that we tend to go over. But we're gonna do that at the end. Let's stick to peer pressure. Now, I like to always put myself in the predicament to allow y'all to understand why I like to teach on peer pressure, fear, or whatever we tend to throw out there or focus on throughout the night. So I'm military. I always like to go back. You know, I've been in the military 10 years, so I got a lot of stories that can tie into a lot of these phrases that we talk about on a day in and day out basis. So I'm not a smoker, I'm not a drinker. I don't drink heavy, but I'm not like an alcoholic or anything like that. But in the army, I'm training and working around a lot of alcoholics, a lot of people that like to smoke or chew tobacco or what have you. I don't look at it as a bad thing, but when you're stuck on it, you're gonna hear that a lot tonight, because that ties into peer pressure. That's a direct effect of being pressured into doing something. You can either be stuck by it, stuck to it, or it'll keep you stuck for the rest of your life, being pressured into doing something. Whether that's smoking crack or drinking some hard liquor, you know what I mean? That's the type of stuff that'll give you a certain buzz that you'll like to go back and forth to. Now, going back to the army, like I said, I'm around a lot of alcoholics. I'm around a lot of, I ain't gonna say drug addicts, but a lot of people that's stuck on smoking, a lot of people that's stuck on chewing tobacco, different stuff like that. So, mind you, I've been in 10 years, so we're going back 10 years ago, which is what, 2015? That's when I was in basic training. We didn't do a lot of that. We didn't have a lot of time, per se, to do any of those things back in basic training. But once we finished basic training and we went into learning our specific jobs that we chose, which is AIT, we had a lot of free time. We had a lot of freedom. We had a lot of, there's more lenient, per se. So we got to hang out. We got to do stuff that we usually do at home, but still with limitations, because you're a soldier of the United States Army or Marine or Air Force, what have you. So you're still limited. But I always had a group of guys that I like to hang out with and go around with, you know what I mean? And throughout basic training, we all graduated out of basic training and we all stuck together at AIT with the main group that we know, you know what I mean? And throughout basic training, they knew me as the cool kid, the cool guy, you know what I mean? I always stayed in my corner to myself, chilling, you know what I mean? Because I know back at home, I wouldn't do stuff that they're doing. And I wouldn't allow anybody to pressure me into doing it either. So going back to the story, we was at the mall. You know what I mean? There ain't nothing wrong with smoking weed, but like I said, I'm not a smoker. And I wasn't a drinker at all at the time, you know what I mean? So anytime we hung out, they always got in a big group and smoked. You know what I mean? Cool. I'll be over here, I'll wait on y'all. Whenever y'all ready, we'll call a taxi and you know what I mean? We'll go together. So I did that, 2 or 3 times. I told him, hey, I'll be over here, I'll let y'all do that. So the very fourth time, my buddy came up to me and said, hey, Fitz. And they always call me Fitz because my last name Fitzgerald. But, hey, Fitz, man, why you don't never want to hit it with us? Or why you don't never want to, you know what I mean, drink with us, man? We always see you as the cool guy. You know what I mean? We always see you as this, that, and the third. And I'm like, man, I don't do that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and try to be cool or keep my cool status if I got to sit here and smoke and drink. I don't know what any of that stuff going to do to me. You know what I mean? It could be lace. Not saying that they're going to be lacing stuff or they trying to lace me, but this me thinking. You know what I mean? That's this is. I've always had a spiritual mindset. I always had a spiritual good intentions. You know what I mean? Not saying they did. Like I said, that's not a bad thing. If you smoke or you drink, it's not a bad thing. But if you're dependent on that day in and day out, you're stuck. You know what I mean? And I don't know your backstory. If somebody pressured you into ever, if anybody ever pressured you into smoking or drinking or what have you, I don't know your backstory. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to be pressured into doing it. And when he heard me say what I said, he kind of backed down off of himself for the rest of the training and reverted back to, you know what I mean, doing what I do, sitting back in the shadows, chilling, you know what I mean, just enjoying the freedom that they gave us because we didn't have much freedom back in AIT or basic training. A lot of people call it boot camp. If you don't know what basic training is, that's boot camp. We didn't have a lot of leniency. We didn't have a lot of freedom. So I just wanted to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Sit back, eat my cheeseburger that I wasn't able to eat for the last 12 weeks. You know what I mean? I wasn't able to eat a good burger from McDonald's. You know what I mean? I wanted to sit back and enjoy my free time out of uniform. You know what I mean? And that don't involve smoking or drinking. I didn't really care too much about it. You know what I mean? I still was labeled cool. So getting back to peer pressure. If you're listening right now, if you're ever in a situation where, you know what I mean, somebody want to give you something that you know you don't do on a regular basis, like smoking weed, you know what I mean, cocaine, what have you, Molly, it's a lot of stuff out there, you know what I mean? And I'm talking to this specific age group because we're the ones that are presenting these things nowadays at parties, at the club, you know what I mean? That one friend that you don't know too much about, we're tied to it on a day-in-a-day basis. Trying to be cool, trying to fit in. There's nothing wrong with trying to be cool or trying to fit in because you're trying to find your footing in life. You know what I mean? You're trying to figure out life, and it's nothing wrong with that. But be cautious. You know what I mean? Be aware of your surroundings. Know who you're hanging around with. Know your limits. You know what I mean? It's all right to try to fit in, and it's all right to try to be cool, try to find friends. You know what I mean? Trying to expand your boundaries, per se, because it's cool. Get out of your comfort zone. Go out there, meet new people. You know what I mean? Do different things. But don't do something that's going to have you stuck your entire life trying to figure out what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, your life is your life. These things, it can hold you back from pursuing a career, you know what I mean, from achieving your goals, from pushing, from staying strong in the mind. These are things that'll hold you back, period. You don't want to ever do that. So peer pressure is very important for us to learn, for us to understand. Even me as an adult, I'm 28 years old now, you know what I mean? Back in 2015, I was what? Maybe 18, 19 probably. You know what I mean? So it's 10 years later we talking about here. You know what I mean? I'm not the same guy I was back in basic training, back in AIT. I've matured in mind and spirit. I've seen what alcohol can do to people. I've seen what weed can do. Well, not necessarily weed, but all these hard drugs out here. I've seen what it can do to people, and I don't want no parts of it. I'm pretty sure you're out there, you're watching these things on TikTok, and you're seeing things on Instagram on what drugs can do. We even got people doing stuff with cans of air. You know what I mean? It's crazy stuff out there that'll mess you up or kill you. So you got to be cautious. You got to be aware. These are things that we got to keep in mind when we're trying to be better, when we're trying to learn, when we're trying to grow. There's a lot of things out there that'll pressure you. It don't necessarily got to be people. Let's get that out the way right now. Peer pressure don't have to come from people. Peer pressure can come from porn. Let's be real. It can come from porn. You know what I mean? Different TV shows that we watch, music that we listen to. Peer pressure is out there and it's in many different forms. You know what I mean? And if you ain't careful, it'll mess you up in the long run. And when we talk about fear, which will probably be the next lesson, when we talk about fear, keep in mind, they tie in together. They tie in completely together, you know what I mean? Fear can have you stuck, not able to progress, not able to mature, not able to go out there and put your feet out there in the world. Because at some point, you got to step out the nest. You got to step out your comfort zone. You got to step up. You got to be a better you. And you can't be a better you if you're afraid. You can't be a better you if you're not trying to be a leader instead of allowing people to easily pressure you into staying in your current self. And that's what drugs and alcohol and porn and all this different stuff, it'll hold you back completely if you allow it. If you allow it. Peer pressure is crazy, man. It's crazy. And it can get deeper. The lesson can expand. The lesson can be longer. But at the end of the day, what you got to understand, what you got to keep in mind is don't allow people to, or things or TV shows or music to pressure you into staying in that little bubble, staying in that little shell, not being able to be who you're meant to be what you want to be. These are things that'll have you stuck, tied down, bonded. Peer pressure is hey, it's crazy. Keep that in mind. And just to leave y'all with the word for the night, like I say, each night, each lesson, I always like to leave y'all with something from the Bible so y'all can have a spiritual nugget planted in you to go back to study, to pray on. And it's coming from First Peter chapter 2, verses 9 through 12, which reads, But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who have called you out of the darkness into his marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify God in the day of visitation. Now that's First Peter chapter 2, verses 9 through 12, which emphasizes the fact that we are different. We're meant to be different. When you have the mindset that we have, that we uphold as disciples of Christ, as Christians, as people of God, whatever you want to call yourself, we're different. We're not meant to fit in. We're not meant to allow peer pressure to squash us and mold us into something that we're not meant to be. We're meant to be different. We're meant to be the trendsetters. We're meant to have people follow us, to have people intrigued by us. What's different in us should allow something to shine out to draw people in. And I have a quote that I want to give y'all by um, a quote called My Deepest Fear. And this will be a quote that'll lead us into the lesson of fear.
And a lot of you may have heard this quote before from a movie called Coach Carter. That's a good movie. I like to watch Coach Carter, by the way. But it's a quote by someone named Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel unsure around you. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. As we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And like I said, that's a good quote that's going to bring us into the lesson of fear. But the reason why I want to give y'all this quote in our lesson of peer pressure is to remind you that we are meant to be different, that we're meant to not fit in, that we're meant to not follow the crowd. Go away from the crowd. That's a challenge. After this lesson that I gave you, that's a challenge. Be different. Go beyond your comfortability. Don't be comfortable all the time. Don't stay in your bubble all the time. Be different and see what it do for you. See who follows you. See who's more intrigued. And that'll make you the leader that you're meant to be. When you see people that want to be like you, that want to do the things that you're doing, that's intrigued, why you're so nice, why you're so quiet, why you're so at peace. It's people are out there watching you, whether you know it or not. People that know you're not supposed to be doing things, but you're doing it. People are watching you and they're taking note. Oh, he's supposed to be a Christian man, or he's this, that, and the third. Well, now I'm doubting Christ. Now I'm doubting church. Now I'm doubting the word of God. These are things that people are watching you smoking, cursing, doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. And that's what you got to keep in mind. That's why I said at the beginning of the lesson, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what you're doing. Because people are looking at you and these are people that are looking up to you. You don't always got to be a young person. You got adults that are watching you, that are intrigued by you, that likes what you're doing, that wants to see you succeed, wants to see you grow. But you're so stuck on trying to be cool, on trying to fit in, that it'll draw you away from the ultimate goal. And that's defeating the purpose. So keep in mind, don't allow peer pressure to crush you, to mold you, to push you out of your zone as you're trying to mature, as you're trying to achieve a goal. Push peer pressure to the side. Don't allow peer pressure to make you, but allow peer pressure to build you, to allow peer pressure to push you into being different, into doing what you're supposed to do, doing what you're meant to do. That's our lesson on peer pressure. Until next time.